Putin may have little choice but to let Wagner boss Prigozhin run amok in Ukraine. The Russian mercenaries are losing the fiercest battle of the Ukraine war, and their leader is losing it. He has made shocking threats to withdraw his troops and to release details of Russian military failures if his forces don't get the ammunition they need, and he has ripped into top military leaders and what appeared to be a veiled shot at the Russian president. Despite not following through, his words and deeds are outlandish. Many Russians have been killed or thrown in jail for much less. Yevgeny Prigozhin, leader of the paramilitary Wagner group and one of Russia's most visible voices in the conflict, has taken to insulting and berating the Russian government and President Vladimir Putin, whom he views as a political patron. An expert on the Russian military, Katerina Stepanenko of the Institute for the Study of War, argues that Putin is to blame for this mess, and that the Russian leader may not be able to do much to fix it. According to Stepanenko, Putin sets up a very toxic environment where he only allows one faction to capture his attention at a time. He switches between teams, and that forces the two factions to compete against each other, she said, noting that the entire time he holds out hope that those who disappoint can regain their status, he actually makes them work harder to win back his favor. The Russian president currently appears to be on the side of the defense ministry, which is responsible for the vast majority of the armed forces and has been heavily criticized for botched operations. As Prigozhin works to achieve his own ambitions, now rumored to be political, and his influence declines, he appears to be growing increasingly irritated by Putin's apparent shift from his earlier, stronger support for Wagner. Even though his attacks are most severe on the defense ministry, it appears that he also has Putin in his sights. Wagner's forces have been instrumental in Russian combat operations in Ukraine, allowing Prigozhin to expand the group at the expense of Russian military resources and to push command decisions to Putin directly, often bypassing the defense ministry. However, Wagner's army of convicts and the rest of the mercenary forces have been mired in the bloody battle for Bakhmut for months. Tensions between the Russian Defense Ministry and the Wagner boss have reached a boiling point during the fierce fighting in Bakhmut, where the mercenaries have suffered tremendous losses. The Russian Ministry of Defense regained power in January after the removal of notorious leader General Sergei Surovikin, who had been supported by ultranationalists like Prigozhin. Prigozhin, a Putin ally and backer who finances the notorious paramilitary company Wagner, has posted videos on YouTube in which he criticizes the Russian military leadership, in particular Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and General Valery Gerasimov, who replaced Surovikin and is now in charge of Russian operations in Ukraine. Prigozhin is furious because support for Wagner has plummeted under the current administration. The lack of ammunition and other supplies is what he calls shell hunger, and he holds them responsible for the deaths of men in his company. At one point, Wagner's situation became so dire that outside experts began to wonder if the Russian military was actively trying to wipe them out. Prigozhin recently threatened to pull his forces out of Bakhmut as Wagner's problems persisted, but he reversed course after ostensibly receiving a promise to deliver the necessary ammunition from Russia's defense ministry. The Institute for the Study of War recently updated their analysis of the conflict in Ukraine, noting that chain of command problems, caused by irregular commanders like Prigozhin, appear to be having a significant impact on the Russian military's ability to conduct coherent theater-wide operations. This could have repercussions beyond the area around Bakhmut. Because of his predictions that the Wagner forces would leave Bakhmut, Prigozhin claims he was accused of treason. Even after being warned, he continues to rant. Prigozhin threatened to expose Russia's military failures in a video he posted after his forces were denied promised supplies and ammunition. He also made fun of Russia's victory parade and seemed to suggest that Putin isn't a benevolent grandfather, as the mercenary leader had previously described him, but a complete asshole. He later disclaimed any reference to Putin.